So right now I'm in my daughter's room, and recently she's been getting into plants, which I thought was pretty cool for a 12-year-old. Before that it was watermelon, and before that it was slime. So I decided to build her a shelf to put those plants on, and it's going to be on this wall here. Hey Aurora. So first thing I did was measure out where the plant was going to be. Then I put some blue painter's tape and I did 2 coats of white paint. So I'm going to be cutting 2 strips. One is going to be a 5-inch piece, which I'm going to cut into my shelves. The second piece is going to be a 3-inch piece, which is going to be for the stem, which is going to hold the shelves. And I'm also going to cut a 20-inch top shelf off of that 3-inch piece. Next, I take my 5-inch piece and I cut a 15-inch piece and a 10-inch piece. I remove my table saw sled, adjust my table saw fence to 4 inches, and then cut my other pieces, which is going to be a 15-inch piece and 2 10-inch pieces. And this is what you should end up with. You can get all these pieces from a 1x6 by 10 foot piece of lumber. I'm just using some scraps that I had left over from another project. After I had all my pieces, I just laid everything out to make sure it looked the way I wanted it to before I moved on. I know I wanted my first shelf to be 3 inches from the top, so I scored a line, and then I took my stock and put it against that line and scored another line to see how much I had to remove. I took all my pieces and lined everything up and make sure the spacing was right and it looked the way I wanted it to. Then I just draw a tick on the top of the shelves and then removed it. Now that I know where the top of each of my shelves go, I just repeated the process for the first shelf. I also had to transfer all my lines to the back, and you'll see why in a minute. So at the table saw, I'm just using offcuts just to get my blade to cut halfway through the material before I move on to my stock. After I had my table saw dialed in, I moved on to the spine so I could cut my dados. After I was done with all the dados, I moved on to the shelf. The reason why I designed this shelf this way is that you just have to adjust the table saw height just once, and then you can do for the spine plus the shelves, and then they should fit just like this. And this is what it should look like when you're all done. I just sanded everything down to 220 and I used just the sander just to round out the edges. For this project, I wanted to paint the shelves different colors, just the edges, and leave the rest of the shelves raw wood. Since it was my daughter's shelf, I let her choose what color she wanted and she chose gray. I guess she's more mature than I am. After the shelves were dry, I drilled 2 countersink holes on the spine where I thought it would least likely be seen. I used polyacrylic and a 2-inch straight brush, and her name's Polly. And I did 2 coats. After everything was dry, I just did a light sanding with a 400 grit sandpaper. So for assembly, I made sure I labeled all of my shelves, and I have shelves that are 5 inches, shelves that are 4 inches, and shelves that are 3 inches. So I figured the best way to put it together was do the smallest width shelves first and then gradually go up so it's supported while I pre-drill and screwed my screws. So to attach it to the wall, I used these screws because they were a similar color to the wood, so they won't be seen. I installed one screw and I made sure everything was level before I installed the other. And this is the final product.